Just over a week until preseason game number 1. We are 2 weeks into training camp 2022 from Oxnard, California, and welcome into a brand new edition of Special Edition from the West Coast and the Cowboys practice field. Alongside Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. Guys, we're back. It feels great. We had one episode last week of Special Edition. Nick Eatman did a fantastic job of filling in for Isaiah Stanback, but I mean, this is the crew. Outside of Barry Church, we got to get Barry back on the scene. He'll be here soon enough, but of course, glad to have you back and ready for a little bit of camp.
We are here, man. The weather's good. You know, the guys are playing well. I mean, football's back. Got big Nate Dogs here with me. It's football season, y'all.
I'm loving it, man. That's rock and roll.
Let's go. And the pads did come on this week for the first time. The Cowboys on Monday having their first padded practice, and they worked all week long with some added physicality. So both of you guys played in the league for a significant amount of time. Both had stints, of course, with the Dallas Cowboys. So I'm going to ask you, has the intensity of this camp been high enough, or is there more that could have been done?
See, you know, you're asking us old school guys, you know, is it intense enough? And I'm going to have to say no. I'm going to say the intensity level is not where it needs to be. However, it's early in camp, right? But when you start thinking about how many padded practices these guys actually get to actually put on, you know, you want to see them turn this thing up a little bit. So they're going to continue to progress and turn the tempo up. But in comparison to how when we play, Nate Dogg, it's not even close.
You're talking about gladiator ball, you know, now it's paintball. So, I mean, you do it, it was gladiators back then. We got muddy. Hey, we went 709 when we first got there. I mean, it was bloody knuckles and everything. These dudes went a week without putting on tape. So now they had to put on tape the other day, and they're getting good, they're getting better, and they're looking pretty rough.
Is that the biggest difference, is the fact that it does take so long to ramp into the pads more so than it is the true workload from a coaching standpoint? There's just a lot of limitations around player safety and making sure that these guys don't get hurt heading into the regular season?
Yeah, Coach them are doing a great job of making sure these guys where they're supposed to be, doing what they're supposed to be doing. But the field, I mean, when you come on the field, it's time to bang, and that's what they haven't been doing. But yeah, they got to change their methods and the way they think mentally too to be physical too.
And it really seems like there was a little added emphasis whenever the pads did come back on and the intensity happened. But during that first padded practice, the Cowboys did suffer their first big injury of the 2022 campaign. James Washington, veteran wide receiver, who was signed this offseason really as a hole filler for Michael Gallup, who's not going to be ready at least through the first month of the season. So it seems he was added on to the wide receiver depth chart. He suffers a Jones fracture, out 6 to 8 weeks at least, and could be more, could be less. Des Bryant suffered an injury like that in 2015. DeMarcus Lawrence last year had a similar injury like that. So let me ask you this question. He was one of those hole fillers. Isaiah, is there enough firepower at the wide receiver position right now?
When you say firepower, that means that these guys are going to come in and be impact players, and I'm not sure that we necessarily have that right now. I do think that there are some guys on the cusp that can now step into that opportunity, that void that's now apparent, and take advantage of what's there. And that's going to be Kevontae Turpin, and that's also going to be Mr. Houston over there. And both of those guys have an opportunity to step up and fill that void that Washington was going to have in that slot position.
You know, you know what? Noah Brown has lost about 15 to 20 pounds. He's been a special teams guy. I talked to the scouts. They say he's running better routes. He's more competitive. So that's a 4th or 5th receiver. Semi, Fahoko, those guys got to step up. They got to fill this void. And if not, they're going to have to use some of that dry gunpowder and go out and get some more.
The gunpowder is what Stephen Jones referred to when he talked to the $20 million of salary cap that the Cowboys have in order to use. So definitely something to keep in mind moving forward. Another thing to keep in mind, are the Cowboys asking too much or too little of Tony Pollard using his versatility this season? We'll talk about the backfield when we come back with more Special Edition.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, is brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas. Reliant, an NRG company. Blockchain.com, trusted by millions, trusted by America's team. And by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys. This segment is brought to you by Salvation Army. Love Beyond.
I mean, Tony, hell of a player. just his elusivity, his explosiveness. So, I think I go in there, I pound him a little bit, and he goes in there, he gonna break some long ones.
Complimentary football, the lightning and the thunder in the backfield, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, and well, Zeke talked about it there, presented by Texas Lotto, the fact that they do play off of each other. There's a bit of a back and forth, there's an ebb and a flow in that backfield, and it's something that could really be utilized this season and could really be dangerous for opposing defenses. But let's talk about both of those guys individually here for a second. Isaiah, I'll start with you. Can Zeke be trusted with a full workload as he enters in year number 7 of his NFL career?
When you say full workload, now you can't go back to the year 1 and 2 Zeke. The fact of the matter is, he's in year 7?
Year 7.
Okay, year 7. So you can't expect the same demands on a year 7 running back as you can on a year 1 and 2. So can he still be that guy? I think he can be. Should they put that responsibility on him? No. Why? Because he has a great number 2 right beside him. So Zeke, nothing's wrong with Zeke. His offensive line was not what they have been in past years. I think they've made that alteration this year with some of their additions they made in the offseason.
I agree with you 100%. As the season progresses, maybe you start him out with 10 to 15 carries, build him up to 20, and by the time you get late into the season, if he's toting close to 25 total passes and runs, 25, that's great. Playoffs, use him how you want to.
So ultimately, you're saying put him in a bit of a pitch count early on. Limit his workload early and then taper it as the season goes along?
Oh, definitely. I mean, because Pollard has shown to getting better year in and year out. They put 130 carries last year.
Yeah. There you go. I mean, that's one way to look at it. And the Cowboys do have an embarrassment of riches in the backfield with 3 guys, Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, and, of course, Rico Dowdle, who is back from injury this year that is showing some stuff in training camp. But Zeke, 4 1,000 yards rushing seasons, but he played week 4 on last year with an injured PCL. So keep that in mind when it came to his workload. But let's turn things over to Tony Pollard a little bit here. I mean, you get to see a little bit more of him as a wide receiver, the versatility, the back and the forth that you could have, especially with James Washington being out with his injury. Maybe you see more of Tony Pollard at wide receiver. Are the Cowboys going to ask too much of him or not enough of him in terms of what he can do with his versatility?
I hope they don't ask too much of him. And the reason being is when you start taking guys that are positional guys, such as a Tony Pollard, and you try to put him at the receiver position, you start messing around, putting him at the slot. Now you're getting him in there with those linebackers that can just simply tee off on him. You have him doing things that are outside of his environment, which are running routes and whip routes and things of that nature. I hope that they utilize him in the sense in terms of screen plays. If they're going to use him as a quote-unquote receiver, I hope it's in that sense, more so than just lining him at the receiver position, because now he's not going to be as dominant as you expect him to be when he comes out of the backfield.
I have nothing more to add. I mean, great job. I mean, what can I add? Screens, swing passes out of the backfield, getting him more to the outside with all the things you do. And you know what? Tony Pollard is, 6'1"?
Yeah.
I always looked at him as a small guy. Tony is bigger than you think.
He's actually built very similar to a Deebo Samuel, who, of course, we've seen in plenty of times over the last couple of years, who plays for the San Francisco 49ers. But can he be utilized in a similar fashion as Deebo does?
I'm not sure that he has the same frame as Deebo.
Okay.
Deebo's a little thicker than Tony Pollard, but Tony Pollard has
like
that
5
juice.
to 10 pounds, though. It's not by a ton.
But it's built different.
It
you know
is,
what I'm
a
saying?
little
It's built
bit.
different.
I just wanted to test you on that one.
I'm not doing this with you, Nick.
Not going that deep into it at all. Tony Pollard last season, career highs in attempts, yards per game, receptions, and receiving yards per game as well. So if you talk about taking that next step, he took one last year. He could certainly take one again coming up this season. All right, when we come back, could the front office be looking outside for help at wide receiver and or kicker? Cowboys COO Stephen Jones joins the show, and we get a chance to sit down and pick his brain for a little bit when we come back with more Special Edition.
This segment was brought to you by Salvation Army. Love Beyond. This segment is brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas.
With questions at kicker and a little bit of a short depth chart at wide receiver, the Cowboys front office may be looking elsewhere for outside help even prior to the NFL regular season. Our very own Nick Eatman catches up with Stephen Jones about some of the possibilities from that Cowboys front office.
Hey everyone, Nick Eatman here along with Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer out here in beautiful Oxnard, California. And we're not going to talk weather again. We know it. We love it. You love it. Now, what you don't love is obviously seeing any kind of injuries out here. He had some earlier this week at wide receiver. James Washington gonna miss a few weeks. Can you talk about what you still like about the receiver position, but maybe what is the next move there at receiver?
Well, first of all, once you start putting these pads on, it's inherently going to happen that you're going to have some injuries, but that's a part of the game. Of course, you know, what injuries do, though, is allow other people to step up and make some plays. And, of course, we're seeing some of these, some veterans, some young guys. I know Noah's having a really good camp, was before the injury, and he's doing a real nice job. But then the young guys, Tolbert's really stepping up and doing a real nice job for us. And then, you know, after that, you got, you know, 3 or 4 guys that I think are going to be interesting guys to watch over the next weeks as we move forward, whether it's a Semi, whether it's a Houston, whether it's a Vasher. All these guys are making plays as they move through their workouts. And, you know, I think they've got an opportunity here to get our attention.
And as far as guys that are out there, you say it all the time, it's 365 days you're evaluating. I'm sure you got your eyes on some people, but you're just going to have to, is this the time, let's just see what these young guys do first.
That's it. We want to see what these young guys do, who can step up, and then, you know, we're always trying to improve our roster, and that obviously now more than ever includes receiver, but we're always looking for, you know, some guys who could come in here and maybe improve us, and we'll certainly do that with the receivers.
Number 4 looks pretty good out here, as always, Dak, and I'm sure you're excited about what he's going to do this year. Let's go to the next level, though, at quarterback backup. It seems like that's pretty wide open still with Cooper Rush and Will Greer, and then you have Danucci as well.
Well, I think Greer's having a heck of a camp. I mean, Cooper's always been steady in the boat, and he's, you know, a guy we know we can count on. He won a big game for us last year at Minnesota on the road. But Greer's really, I think, making a move here and doing some real nice things out there. He knows, really getting a good understanding of what Kellen wants in the offense, and he's making good, accurate throws and making plays.
Where's the comfort level? And I know earlier in the week they had some misses at kicker. You've got 2 guys pretty inexperienced. Is there comfort level there at kicker?
Yeah, I mean, we're letting them compete, but as I said, we're always looking for ways to improve our roster. And you know, not unlike the kicker situation, sometimes you may be competing a guy who's not here right now. So, you know, I know they're working on their craft, and you know, they're getting better each day. But at the same time, you know, I wouldn't rule out that we'd look at other kickers.
All right, Stephen Jones, Cowboys Chief Operating Officer. We'll see you next time.
Special thanks for Stephen Jones stopping by and catching up with our very own Nick Eatman. But when we come back, one of the picks in last year's draft, Micah Parsons, took the world by storm. But is there some hidden pressure in terms of the linebacker position this season for the Dallas Cowboys? When we return with more Special Edition.
This segment was brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas.
Yourself as being in like a competition with Leighton, or do you think there's enough snaps for both of you guys?
I think there's enough, but I think we're always competing. That's the only way you get better is to compete. So me, Leighton, Micah, Luke, everybody on the whole linebacking crew, we're all competing.
Hearing from Jabril Cox, brought to you by Reliant, as we take a deeper look into the linebackers here on Special Edition. Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, and Kyle Yeoman's with you. Now, I do want to talk about the newest linebacker for this Dallas Cowboys team. Anthony Barr signed earlier in the week. 1-year deal, $2 million base and incentives that could get it up to $3 million is what he signed for. And really a guy who can do a whole lot of things. He can drop back in coverage, he can play up on the line of scrimmage, or he can play the middle linebacker spot. Ultimately, brings more versatility to Dan Quinn's defense.
Dan Quinn is a kid in a candy store right now. I mean, and what this guy has right now, he has a 6'5", 255-pound linebacker that has 9 years of experience. He's worn a C on his chest for almost his entire career. This guy knows how to play ball. He builds leaders around him, and he's physical. This dude is a tackling machine. Nothing gets past him at the second level. So now you have an opportunity to have not only Barr, but you have Vander Esch at 6'4", 250, and you got Micah Parsons at 6'3", 245 pounds, and these guys at the second level are going to be McNasty.
What I'm loving about what Isaiah's saying is that C, that stands for captain. He's going to bring leadership to that room, man. Parsons, he leads right now because he's enthusiastic. He makes hell of a plays. But I'm telling you, sometimes you have to, hey, it's going to be all right, little fella. You know, it's you the man, but it's going to be all right. And he's going to know when to talk and when not to talk. And George Edwards has a relationship with him, and that's our linebacker coach. And 25 years with George and about 9 years of this guy, this locker room is going to be nice.
Yep, 6 years with George Edwards with Minnesota. He went to 4 Pro Bowls. His only Pro Bowls that he had, George Edwards was on the coaching staff. So keep that in mind with Anthony Barr. He played in 11 games last year, had 72 tackles and 3 interceptions. Now, let's move on to Micah Parsons. He looks for a repeat season from what he did his rookie campaign. Can he do so, and how does he have a repeat season like that?
Yeah, I'm not sure if he's going to have a repeat season from last year. He got to understand some of the demographics of the team really forced him to play at the defensive end position a lot more than you expect him to. So I think now, especially now with the addition of Barr, he's able to go back to the linebacker role, and I think he has to become more comfortable there because he hasn't had the amount of reps that you would like them to have to this date.
Quick basketball analogy, Steph Curry, the Warriors, they brought in KD, you know, so they bring in these players, and all he does is just finds ways to be a bigger weapon. That's all they're doing. They're putting key players around him, Parsons, so he can become a bigger weapon. We can use him at our leisure now to explode all of other teams.
Now, Nate, with that in mind, what kind of weapon is Leighton Vander Esch? He played all 17 games last season. How can he build on what was a pretty good season that he got better as it went along in 2021?
He'll see how it's supposed to be done. He came in as a young rookie himself 3 or 4 years ago, and he had to be his own leader. Now he'll see how a guy study films, how a guy plays and fits in gaps, man. And you know what? It's competition. It's competition. And Leighton has the ability. Now we're just going to have that burning fire.
Now, Jabril Cox, we just heard from him at the start of the segment here. Isaiah, when you look at Jabril Cox, what does he bring to the table that kind of fits into the mold of this linebacker for?
The versatility aspect and speed, exactly what Dan Quinn loves. Dan Quinn loves guys that can play multiple roles, and when you get into those third down sets where you need somebody to be able to run with a linebacker or stay with a running back, guess who you're calling on? Jabril Cox.
Hey, that's one guy that could really do a lot of things. He, just like Anthony Barr, can drop back in coverage. It's one of his strengths. And coming off of the injury, Mike McCarthy said he was building toward more playing time. Well, now he's got a chance at earning some, and he's had a great start to camp so far. Who else has had a great start to camp? How about DaRon Bland? Any under-the-radar or lesser-known standouts for the Dallas Cowboys through the first 2 weeks in Oxnard when we come back with more Special Edition right after the break.
Special Edition, presented by AT&T, was brought to you by Ford F-Series, the best-selling truck in Texas. Miller Lite, the only beer of the Dallas Cowboys. And by AT&T, official sponsor of the Dallas Cowboys.
It's the final segment of Special Edition here from Oxnard, California in Cowboys Training Camp 2022. Again, Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. This is the final show from Oxnard, believe it or not. It's your first one. It's also your final one in Oxnard, because next week we will do this show from Denver, up in the Mile High City, and then a chance to see the Cowboys in their first preseason game against the Broncos. A week after that, we'll be in downtown LA, out in Irvine, doing this show as the Cowboys are practicing, then playing against the Los Angeles Chargers. But before we get into the preseason, let's give the fans some names they should do some homework on. Who have been some lesser-known names that have stood out to you so far in camp?
I'm going to hold up number 3. And this number 3 stands for Dennis Houston. He is a receiver that you guys need to keep your eye out for. Surprisingly, he's gotten a lot of reps ever since Washington got injured. But the main thing is, number 4 has chemistry with number 3. Something to watch out for.
Brandon Smith, number 80. He flashed last year good enough to get on the practice squad. I talked to a few scouts. They say he's up and coming. He's been slow to mini camps and all that, but he flashed yesterday in practice, and this guy's coming.
You guys picked wide receivers. I'm going to go with a cornerback. How about rookie DaRon Bland? He was a 5th-round pick. He's come in. Jordan Lewis, speak about trust. Jordan Lewis said that he thinks he'll be the most impactful rookie on the entire Cowboys defense. So keep an eye out for number 30 on the defense, DaRon Bland. He's really had a great camp, and I think he'll have a great preseason. Speaking of the preseason, when we come back with Special Edition next week, we've got a preseason game to talk about. For Isaiah Stanback, Nate Newton, I'm Kyle Yeomans. That does it for us here from Oxnard, California. We'll see you for preseason game number 1 next week.